Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome, Truth Warriors and Mythbusters. Today is October 11th. The year has gone by so fast. I think we all feel that way. Most of the year we have been on lockdown, stay-at-home orders, and yet it's gone by so fast. You would think it would have gone by slowly, but it's gone by quickly. I can't believe it's October 11th, and the election will be held in approximately 3 weeks. We're concerned. I think many are concerned because of the polls. Can we believe the polls? No, because of what happened last year, but you never know. You never know. In fact, I heard some Democrat folks say that they believe that the results to the election will not be in until weeks after the actual election. Why? Because people will be mailing in ballots, and they will not have counted all of the mail-in ballots. So we know this feels suspicious. Because what happens? Naturally, with ballot harvesting, we can anticipate, because didn't this happen in Orange County? Initially, Trump is winning, and then later, a few days later after the election, a few weeks later after the election, after implementing maybe ballot harvesting, the Democrat wins. We can foresee that, right? Is this what I'm sensing something, I don't want to use the word apocalyptic, but I'm sensing, and I don't want to say some impending doom, but I'm sensing something is going to happen. They say there's usually like an October surprise. Was the October surprise Trump getting COVID-19, testing positive? I don't know. But I still feel like something's going to happen other than the election. Will it be weeks after the election, weeks after November 3rd, Biden wins? That's so depressing, just the idea. Anyway, I hate that I say anyway, and I just said it, and I said it twice, right? I want to bring on my guest. I have a guest, Patricia Dickson. I've interacted with Patricia since on social media, YouTube and Twitter, since the beginning. We have something in common. We're both Black American women Trump supporters. You know, I'm not into identity politics. However, I think it's important to talk about Black America. Why? Because we've been in this country I've said this before. We've been in this country since its founding, and we're facing zero median wealth by 2053. That's relevant. That's meaningful. That needs to be discussed. But I wanted to bring on Patricia because she has a YouTube channel, and she has been a Trump supporter from the beginning, like me. I've been a Trump supporter from day one, yes. And she has a YouTube channel that is she has more YouTube subscribers than me because she's better than me. She gets on YouTube frequently and talks about the issues. And I think her message resonates with many Black Americans. I think most of the people that listen to me on the radio are not Black Americans because many Black Americans don't listen to conservative talk radio. I think many Black Americans do listen to YouTube, and they listen to FM radio. Many Black Americans don't listen to AM talk radio. They think that's like old school or something. I don't know. But anyway, let me bring Patricia on and let's get the conversation going. So Patricia Dickson is my guest, and welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to have you, Patricia. Let's talk about, I want my truth warriors to get a different perspective because they know my POV, my point of view, where I come from, because I've been talking about it for the last 3.5 years. So they know, so I want them to get another perspective, an alternative perspective, or some additional information that I haven't given them. So talk to us. What have you learned? Why are you a Trump supporter?
Okay, well, first of all, I've always been a conservative Republican. So I've never been a Democrat. So I have always voted Republican. But when they first started the GOP candidates, before Trump got in it, I was backing Rick Perry. And my reasons, because, okay, here we were coming out of an Obama economy, and I'm all about policies and who's best to get our economy kick-started. So, Rick Perry had been the governor of Texas. And even during the 2008 collapse and all, he was able to at least keep Texas above water, even during all that time. So I knew that he was capable of getting our economy back going. Because I looked at his record. I look at a person's record just like you're supposed to do when you choose someone who you're going to support. Just like any other job, you're supposed to look at their resume. Have they done what they claim they're going to do? So I was backing Rick Perry. And then Trump came down the escalators. And he had, point by point, he had a plan. Anybody that comes with a plan knows what they're doing. Most candidates, most politicians, they have all these campaign slogans and, cliches and this, that, and the other. And that's what they do. But they don't get very clear and specific. Trump was clear and specific about what he planned to do and what America needed. And that was all I needed to hear. And then plus I knew he could do it because he had already done it on, as a business person. So I immediately switched from Rick Perry to Trump, and I've been with him ever since.
Right. Now, I didn't know that you were always a Republican. I know that you served in the military, correct?
Yes, I'm a retired veteran.
You're a retired veteran. Tell us why you have always been a Republican supporter. And
okay,
that's rare for a Black American woman to support Republicans. That's rare.
Yeah, but you see, when I first decided I was going to vote, my first thing was to look at both parties and look at their platform. That's all I did. And when I looked at the platform of the two, I knew that I was in favor of the Republican platform and their policies. I agreed with everything that their platform said. So that's how I chose my parties. I didn't listen to people. I just chose the party based on that. Not only is their economic platform, the national defense, and like I said, I was in the military then, and also the social, because I am a Christian and their policies support the Bible. So those are the things I looked at, and that's why I've always been a Republican. There's never been any policy on the Democrat side that I've agreed with ever. So that's why I've always been a Republican.
And actually, you're the one that hit me to Bishop Woodson. I think he's coming out of North Carolina, and he's talked about the Equality Act and the issue of abortion and how that goes against Christian principles. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yes. Well, so I found him, I guess, by accident on YouTube. But he's a Black pastor, and he's a rarity as a Black pastor that really looks at the Word of God and then looks at the politics and put the two together. Because most Black pastors, they support the Democrat Party, even though they know that the Democrat Party supports abortion. They don't preach against the abortion, and they don't preach against any of that. So when I saw him do that, I knew then that this man, was a true man of God. Because to me, if you are a true man of God or woman of God, you cannot separate God's word from anything else. Everything has to be in line with his word, especially in politics. So that's how I ended up with watching Bishop Woodson. And I'm telling you, that man does not mince words. He does not. He is just straight out. So, yeah.
Well, did you hear his sermon? Well, one of the things I want to mention real quick is that I learned from him watching one of his videos. It's Bishop Woodson on abortion. He said that 42% of Black Americans are not here since the 70s
Yes.
because of abortion. 42% of us are not here
Yes.
since the 70s because of abortion. That is
Over
so...
20 million. It's been 50 million since Roe versus Wade was passed in 1973. Over 50 million babies killed, but 20 million of those are Black Americans. Now, you know we only make up 13% of the population, and that's another thing. We've been at 13% for decades. Why do you think that? The Hispanic population has increased. Everybody's increased, but we have been 13%. Why? Because we have been killing all our babies. So that's sad, and that's something that should be addressed. And I am glad that Bishop Woodson was, man enough and godly enough to address that issue.
And my position is that if Black men were making real wealth since voting Democrat for 6 decades, the issue is Black America has been getting nothing, no benefits in return for voting for the Democratic Party for the last 6 decades. Right after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Immigration Act was passed the following year. 1965. That passing the Immigration Act of 1965 made it difficult for Black Americans to gain the economics that they needed to gain so that Black men could gain real wealth in society. So my position has always been if Black men were able to gain real wealth in society, they would get married to their women and their women wouldn't need to have an abortion. They could have...
Well,
go ahead.
You know what? I just don't agree with that because first of all, what's preventing them from gaining wealth? Okay, my father had a 5th grade education. He raised us. My mom, he took care of us. So it's not that they don't have the opportunity. Okay, because first of all, you said they would marry the women. Well, why are the women agreeing to be in a relationship, a sexual relationship, before marriage to begin with? Okay, that's the choice that they made. So, if you got 2 young, fertile people engaging in that, a child is going to eventually show up in the womb. So I don't think that's the reason they're not marrying the women because they couldn't get economic wealth or whatever. That's just a choice. It's just a choice. We have too many successful Black men. Look at Mr. Johnson. What's his name? BET guy.
Yeah, but he's rare.
Family of 11. You know why he's rare? Because of his decisions was making him rare. He came from a family of 11 kids. Okay, but you got to look at, I go all the way back to slavery. It's people that were 50 years out of slavery became very wealthy. Look at Madam, what's her name?
C.J. Walker.
C.J.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's Mr. Church. He's out of Memphis, Tennessee. Mr. Church I think is his last. John Church. He was born into slavery. His mother was a slave as well. He built all kind of amusement parks for Black people. This is doing segregation because, as soon as slavery was abolished, the first thing they did in the South was put up those Jim Crow laws. And so because Blacks could not attend, any white facilities, he built a auditorium in Memphis, Tennessee. He built a park so Black kids could go and play just like everybody else. How was he able to do that? This is 50 years out of slavery, still under Jim Crow. Okay, nobody prevented him. Nobody prevented C.J. Walker, Madam C.J. And there's tons of stories like that. I always go back and read those stories, and then I look at my life. I'm like, these people had no opportunities. Okay, and I have tons of opportunities, and they still became millionaires, and I'm still not a millionaire. So it's me. You understand? It's not society. It's not the government. It's me.
No, I understand that. In fact, let's see, before before we got with the Democratic Party, during Jim Crow, we owned 40% of our businesses. My grandfather, my listeners know that, was born in 1895. He owned his own farm and raised several kids and had his own home, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm saying is that once we got with the Democratic Party, the free sex feminism, have sex with whoever.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Once we got with the Democratic Party, once subsequent to the Civil Rights Act, once we integrated, and then you began to see free sex feminism, have sex with whoever you want to. It's cool. It's cool. It's, it's all that kosher stuff. Then that's when you started to see women needing to getting pregnant and in other words, the loss of values and standards that came with being with liberal ideology that was given to us, that was pushed on us from the U.S. Supreme Court decisions, made us more permissive as a society as a whole, American society as a whole. It's not just black Americans, but it's all Americans became more permissive. We lost our values. We lost our standards, and it became cool to have sex, after Woodstock and all that stuff, peace and love and happiness. Yeah. Jimi Hendrix and all that cool stuff. I mean, I went to Berkeley, so I believed in it. I believed in it, but you grow and you learn and you change and you see it didn't work. You realize it didn't work because before the civil rights movement, we had more two-parent families, and the family is the most important institution. So this is what I'm saying. If we didn't get with the Democratic Party, we wouldn't be having sex with everyone. And
you know what? But you still have to choose it. You still have to choose things. I don't care. You don't turn your brains off and all your faculties off just because you join a party and they say, do this, do that. And you say, you're not a robot. It still has to be a decision. You have to choose it yourself. And what happened, I saw a documentary, and Robert Kennedy was speaking, and this is what he had done. This is when he was senator. He had gone to Mississippi to visit the very poor black people in Mississippi. And he came back and he did a speech, and I was shocked that it came out of his mouth. He stood up, I don't know where he was giving his speech, but he said, he said a black man cannot make any money unless he has a child illegitimate, and he cannot even live with his family. He can't get any help from the government unless he produces an illegitimate child, and he said, we're responsible for that. And I was shocked that he said that, because that was the deal. You remember, that's what Lyndon Johnson did. He's always quoted as saying, I'd have those, voting for Democrats for 200 years. And nobody has ever refuted that he said that. So it was an exchange. He said, I'll give you a welfare check as long as you don't get married. So the women started, in order to get that government check, they chose, okay, I'll have sex and I have this baby and I'll get this check. Now the man can come and live with me as long as don't nobody know, but we can't get married because my check will get cut off. But that still was a choice that they made. You have to still choose to live that lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, life is a series of choices, and sometimes we're not fully aware of the choices that we're making when we're immersed in making the decision. I think all of society was immersed in this permissiveness, this free sex, this love, peace, and happiness business. But you said Robert F. Kennedy said what exactly?
Okay, so I was watching a documentary on him, and he ran for the Senate. After his brother was killed, he ran for the Senate, and he became a senator. And so he went, and he was all about poverty and all that. That's why black people loved RFK, because he was talking about the poor man and this, that, and the other. So he went to visit poor Mississippians. And I mean, it showed the video. I mean, they were living in this abject poverty. And
I mean, that's not funny. Why am I chuckling? But I have seen that video. Yeah.
And he said, I had never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back to report on it. And now he's a Democrat, and he admitted. He said a black man can't get any help from the government. He has to produce illegitimate kids, and he can't even live with his family. He said, and we are the cause of that.
Oh,
what
I see.
What he was saying was, because he was telling the truth.
Right.
Oh, he was telling the truth about his own party, and that's
Right.
why I was so shocked when it came out of his mouth.
Right.
Because that's what Lyndon Johnson did with that. Was it the Great Society? What was that with Lyndon Johnson?
Right.
That's what he did.
And the war on poverty, yeah.
And so for Robert Kennedy to admit that like that, well, I was just shocked. And I think we need. And he also said, I think we need to change this. We need to change.
Yeah. So, every now and then, I'm sure some things were said that were salient and that were relevant. Like the Patrick Moynihan report. He was criticized for releasing that report and talking about the importance of the man, the father, in the home, and that we will be devastated. And we're now living those results. See.
Yes, Lord.
You know, and it's a terrible thing. It's devastated us. I don't know why I keep feeling like there's a change. Listen, we need Trump to win. Would you agree?
Oh, yes. America needs Trump. Every demographic in this nation needs Trump to win. Every one of them.
We need Trump. We are all Americans, and he is for America. And what we are finding out, and this is a good thing, we would not know this if Trump were not president, the things that we're finding out. For instance, about this fact that Hillary paid for, weaponized the Russian matter against a political opponent, Trump, and Obama and Biden knew. And yet, the media is not reporting this fully. We're going to take a break. When we come back from the break, Patricia, why don't you touch on how the media is like influencing the people in a negative way? You want to touch on that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, we're going to go to a break. I want to talk about balance of nature. I'm doing the show without notes because why? I take balance of nature, folks. So go to balanceofnature.com and put in Naked Truth Report or Naked Truth, and you'll get 35% off. It's a good thing. I can do a show without notes. Why? Because I take balance of nature. It's all your vegetables and all your fruits in 6 capsules, 3 vegetables, 3 fruits. It's a good thing. We'll be right back with Patricia Dickson, my fellow Black American woman Trump supporter. I love her. You got to check out her YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Welcome back to the Naked Truth Report. My guest is Patricia Dickson. We're both Black American women Trump supporters. That's a mouthful. She talks about it on her YouTube channel, which is very popular. Isn't that correct, Patricia?
Yes.
You have a lot. You have more subscribers than me. I'm so jealous, but it's a good thing because you're pushing out good information and you're informing people, and you have a lot of people commenting. So let's talk about how the media is misinforming the American people.
Well, you know, when you were talking about all this stuff coming about Hillary, you know, and she was the one that plotted this whole thing with the Russia thing and Obama and Biden and the CIA. But the reason the media, first of all, won't talk about it is because, of course, they don't want it to get out. But, you know, they were in on it, too. See, it wasn't just, it was the media plus the intelligence community. They all were in on it. So if they would report it, they would, they would be exposing themselves. And all of that came out a year ago about how the media was involved. So what was happening was this. The intelligence community was feeding information to the New York Times and all these other people. And so then the New York Times would write these bombshell stories. And then the intelligence community would take those stories and use it in the investigation. And so it was just back and forth. So they all in on it together. And, of course, that's what they talked about this 24/7 for 2 years. So you know they're not going to come out and they don't want this information to get out. But how is that going to make them look? They already don't have any credibility. They don't have any. They've chosen sides. I like to look at old videos back when they were reporting the news, And back then, you didn't know that they were, they kind of kept the mask on. You didn't know that they were just straight up on the Democrat side. They would question everybody. It didn't matter. But now they just basically have taken off their mask and they've just taken a side. So they already have no credibility. If they were to report all this stuff that has just come out about Hillary was the one that plotted this whole Russia thing to try to distract from her email scandal, and how Obama was in on it and Biden was in on it, and they framed General Flynn and all that. They can't let that come out because that would be the end of them. If they were to report that, that would be that's it.
Well, that would be it because they were.
Because even their stupid sheeple would say, "Wait a minute, what?"
Yes, because for 3 years they were pushing this and it was so legitimate. I mean, I've been called a Russian bot. I'm still, so much on social media. That's all they say. That's all they say. That's all they say. So the issue is this, that the Democrat voters, all they're concerned about is like personalities and character assassination and superficial and shallow fluff. They're not substantive. They don't go deep and they don't look at the issues.
Yeah. Well, I always say that liberals are just perpetual teenagers. They never grew up. They didn't. I don't care if they're 70 years old. If you find a 70-year-old liberal, they're going to sound just like a 15-year-old. they use their emotions, and I lose patience with them because you shouldn't be that old and you feel like that. You shouldn't be, but they are. And let me tell you something. I figured out why people that hate Trump, regardless to who they are, if he's a woman or a man. People that hate Trump are weak people. Men that hate him are very emasculated. Because Trump is a man. He's an alpha man, and he's an authoritarian. He's a father figure. You got all these people that have daddy issues, women and men. And here comes Trump. Now, remember, all these people that hate Trump loved him. The celebrities, all the people in the media, because he wasn't daddy then. He was just hanging out with them and partying with them. They all loved him. And then overnight, and I mean, they're fuming and then foaming at the mouth hatred. Some of the same people. So how does that happen? How do you get that angry and hate somebody overnight that you used to party with? How is that possible? That's impossible. But because he switched roles. And when they look at him, because he said law and order, they don't like that. He said, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix that. See, he's no longer party. They want to go to all his parties at his club. They hung out with him. And I said, that's what it is. Well, I relate to Trump because I'm just like Trump. That's why I like it so much. I'm just like him. Everything he says, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I say I'm like him too. We're straight talkers.
Well, yeah, straight talkers. And my friends have told me, they said, you know what, you're just like Trump. and but I've always been a straight talker. My siblings are afraid of me. My brothers tell me that they're afraid of me and that I'm like the father. So that's because I'm a straight shooter. And because I'm military too. So we just don't play. We just get straight to the point. This needs to be done. But a lot of people are so immature and emotional, they want problems to just disappear. And that's not going to happen. You have to face things head on. Just like Trump said when he got the coronavirus. He says a leader faces it head on. That's the truth. You don't run and hide and make excuses. You face it head on. The people in Hollywood, they're so messed up. Their lives are completely messed up. They're nothing but just children. And so money won't help. Fame won't help. You have to face your problems head on and get some kind of help and solve your problems. So Trump puts it out there, and they just go nuts.
Right.
People have been living in a bubble, and they've been ignoring their own. See, it's personal to them. That's why it's so personal.
It's
It's
personal.
not Trump. It's them.
It's them. Exactly.
But when they see him, they have to face themselves, and it makes them angry. They need help. They haven't grown up.
They have to face
They haven't
themselves.
grown up. And this is another thing I said, and I mean this. Those liberals lie so much 24/7 that I wouldn't want to have any kind of relationship with them because they're lying to their significant others and their family members. If you can just sit up and lie to millions of people every night with a straight face, it doesn't even bother you. It doesn't bother them. They tell some outlandish lies. They make them up out of a whole cloth. And it doesn't bother them. Can you imagine what they're saying to their loved ones? How much lying they're doing to them? Is it easy for you?
You see how you guys have to check out Patricia Dickson's YouTube channel. She's very funny. At least, I mean, she tickles me because she's so right on point, and it's funny. It's so true what she's saying. They have daddy issues. And you see how the folks in Hollywood, they can't keep their relationships together.
Exactly.
They lack integrity, just like this Nexum cult. These were Hollywood people, actors and actresses. They're all Democrat voters. They don't have an inner core. And Dennis Prager talking. They lack meaning. They're secular. They lack meaning, and they have daddy issues.
That's why they can't stay out for and they have to be in the spotlight. They want people to pay them. They're already celebrities, but they cannot go without being in the spotlight. They'll make a video. You remember when everything was shut down? Mm-hmm. They were making YouTube videos for people to look at them. They were. They didn't have all their makeup, and they were looking horrible, just like normal people. But instead of just staying in the house and minding their own business, they had to make videos. Because they were out of the spotlight. They couldn't stand not being in the spotlight. Nobody could go to the movie theaters. Nobody could see them. You understand? They couldn't go to their parties, to the Hollywood parties. Everything was shut down. So they just couldn't stand that. So they just started making home videos, and it was just horrible.
Yes, that's so fun. That's true. I never thought of it that way. They wanted to stay relevant.
Yes.
Yeah. Narcissistic. And
that's why they're losing their mind, because they're not relevant anymore. And did you see the videos of them naked?
Yeah.
You have to have lost your mind, and you're a celebrity, and you've fallen that low. How low will you go? Try to get attention. It's all about putting some attention on them.
Yeah.
If I take my clothes off and just look at me, listen to me. And you're a celebrity, you got to do that?
I know. And another thing I notice is how they all get on the same bandwagon. They're all like for Kamala Harris, all the celebrities, they're all for Kamala Harris, they're all for Breonna Taylor. They all put up Breonna Taylor, pictures of her. Yeah. They all start twerking. Have you noticed all of them twerk? And, and it's like they all are for Kamala Harris, and they all believe in having a big butt now. It's like weird. Oh, and everybody has to have it's like group think,
They don't have an identity. They don't have an identity.
They don't have an identity.
And
that's why they're in that. And that's why they're in that profession where they can pretend to be something that they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they can.
And that's why they get into that Nexum cult. Are you guys watching that documentary on HBO about the sex trafficking, Keith Raniere? You got to check it out. It's intriguing. Why don't we take a call now from Jim in the South Bay? Hi, Jim. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hey, Kathleen, and your guest. In the 1960s, there were several public figures who supported the use of enterprise or opportunity zones, and one of those was Robert Kennedy. And, he might have made that statement, which you're referring to there at that point, but he evolved. And Kennedy actually had a lot of liberals that were mad at him because he was talking exactly what David Blankenhorn later talked about, Larry Elder and others have addressed, that Malcolm X and others had addressed, and William F. Buckley, and that the system had made the absence of fathers a precondition for assistance. And so when he ran in 1968, he asked for jobs and not welfare and advocated stern policies to suppress domestic disorder and violence. And William F. Buckley, as you know, was a conservative, and he liked Kennedy, and he said that Kennedy's proposals make so much sense, they remind me of ones that I made where Kennedy, and he said this on Merv Griffin's show, he said, we need to bring the private sector in. We can't just throw taxpayers' dollars and waste it at the problem. And he was, believed in the idea that if you teach people to fish, they'll have more each day. In other words, about teaching people initiative and independence. And I'm looking at a whole bunch of quotes with the exact dates here and proposals that he advocated. And I think the tragedy of his murder and Malcolm X's murder and Nixon also supported this idea, and Jackie Robinson, and as well, is we don't talk about this stuff anymore. That's what's sad about this. We have a society that is completely shut down from ideas like the ones I'm mentioning here, and yet everything I'm saying is true. And then I'll leave it on this. Jeff Greenfield, who I think is a very good journalist. He wrote speeches for Robert Kennedy, but he himself also said that Kennedy was in favor of giving tax incentives to the private sector because he said that the government was so big and bureaucratic that they couldn't understand the needs in people's individual communities. So I'm mentioning this because I was just overlooking at some stuff here about that, you know?
Right, yeah. So what we're learning, we've come full circle, so to speak.
Yeah.
We see the results of not implementing. Nothing new is under the sun.
That's right.
And we see the results.
Kennedy started to do that in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and if he had not been murdered, I believe he would have this would have gone further. Nixon, had the same idea, and he hired Jackie Robinson, and Jackie Robinson was very skilled in a lot of areas. Before he died, he built some really great housing in New York, and was working on that. And there were people like David Rockefeller that didn't like Nixon, and they tried to sabotage him. Malcolm X said, "Hey, if people who live in the inner cities ought to own so let's give them tax incentives." Even Martin Luther King said that in his last book. Where do we go from here? Community from chaos, from either where do we go from here? Chaos or community? He said we need to give tax incentives to the private sector because the government can do certain things, but it can't do everything. So even he came around to that.
Yeah. So
what I'm saying is here you had an agreement on a number of individuals, and yet the two parties since that time have failed miserably to do anything on this. But I'm just pointing out that RFK was completely the opposite of current Democrats, and he was not a Marxist. He was completely, totally opposed to Marxism. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and what Trump with this opportunity zones is doing exactly that now with the tax incentives.
No, this is what Trump, as a matter of fact, is aware of the individuals I'm talking about, and that's one of the reasons he supports it, because he feels that what they were advocating makes total sense and is the only way to solve the problems of reinvigorating these communities with housing and jobs. And and by the way, I'll end on this. You are so right. We used to have journalists out there. Look at 60 Minutes, Steve Kroft, Ed Bradley, Mike Wallace, right? Leslie Stahl. They didn't have an agenda. They just gave you good reporting. And you're right. Even Walter Cronkite, Connie Chung, Bernard Shaw, right?
Right. Thank you.
Even Chris Matthews,
Jim.
Listen, when I used to watch, I didn't even know, and I've always been a conservative. I didn't even know that Chris Matthews was a liberal. You remember doing the Monica Lewinsky thing?
Mm-hmm.
I used to come home from work every day and turn on the hardball. Not even know. I didn't even. And Chris Matthews was giving Bill Clinton. He was giving it to him, and he even admitted, he said, "I voted for him, but this is not right." And he never. But then all of a sudden, he just changed. Chris Matthews. So yeah, we used to have some journalists. They just, I don't know what happened.
And, well, the entire industry changed. And let's talk about the debate. You saw how Wallace, the son, Chris Wallace, give us your thoughts about the debates, the presidential debates and the vice presidential debates, and Chris Wallace's performance.
Well, first of all, when they, I kept thinking, and a lot of conservatives kept thinking that, hey, this debate between Trump and Biden's not even going to go off. Biden's not going to show up. They're going to switch out. They're going to do something because, and come to find out, the switch was Chris Wallace. Because basically, Chris Wallace started debating Trump. And even Trump said, okay, I got to debate you now. So that's one thing. And, of course, Chris Wallace. See, a lot of people thought that Chris Wallace is a conservative simply because he was on Fox. But he's not. He's always been a Democrat. And, because he's a Democrat. Greta Van Susteren is a Democrat. She had a show there. Of course, everybody knew Shepard Smith. So Fox has all these people on there that are, because I guess they're trying to prove that they're, balanced.
Fair and balanced.
But fair and balanced. So people were thinking that Chris Wallace was going to be fair. I knew he wasn't going to be fair. And he showed it. So I thought it was just pathetic. The whole thing was. And, how he kept interrupting Trump. He interrupted Trump every time, but he's been on TV every day since that debate claiming Trump did all the interrupting. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Every day he's been on there lying, putting it all off on Trump.
And another disappointing thing is finding, because my Truth Warriors know I watch Washington Journal, finding out about Steve Scully with Washington Journal, C-SPAN.
But you know, that was God. I don't care what anybody says. Did you see that tweet he sent out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're claiming it was hacked, but they refuse to tell people whether or not they're investigating it. But you know where this is going. It was not hacked. I'm glad that happened, because then he got exposed. Had he not sent that tweet out, he wouldn't have been exposed for who he really is. We already knew, because he used to, didn't he clerk?
For Biden.
He clerked was, yeah.
Not clerk, but he worked in the mail department for Biden 30 or 40 years ago. However, and he, I watch Washington Journal, and he seems quite, how do I want to say, journalistic. He seems quite impartial. That's the word. Yeah. I could never get whether or not, more than anyone, he seems more impartial.
Who, Scully, you thought?
Yeah, I thought, watching it, and also Pedro Echeverria, but and the others seem like Greta, the woman who's on watch. They seem like they're Trump haters, but I would have never thought that Steve Scully was a never Trumper. I would have never thought that.
Yeah, well, see, people brought up his tweet when they first started saying that he was going to be the moderator. They brought up that old tweet when he was saying never Trump, ever.
Never
Trump.
Yeah.
Everybody was posting that out. But what I love is when he sent that tweet to
Scaramucci.
Yeah, we call him the Mooch. He hates. And look how he turned on Trump.
He
loved Trump.
Oh my God!
All because he got fired. See how immature they are, though. All it takes for somebody to do is to fire you, and then you hate them. It's like daddy. I'm saying that's a daddy thing, daddy issue. I'm mad at daddy. Daddy punished you.
They're very immature.
Yeah. So that tweet did it all. So he outed himself, and I'm glad that happened. So now Twitter is lying for him, but everybody knows that his account was not hacked.
Yeah, because Scaramucci was responded as if he was in the middle of a conversation. Oh, just ignore it. Like they've been speaking before about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is disappointing. This is disappointing. Okay, Patricia, why don't you tell my listeners, we have 2 minutes, where they can find you on YouTube and Twitter.
Well, I don't even know my Twitter handle, but you can just always do the search. But it's Patricia Dickson. That's it. Dickson. You have to make sure to spell the Dickson right. And I'll come up. You'll see my face,
On YouTube.
Because I don't use any handles or anything. I just use my name,
And then you're also on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's just the Patricia Dickson.
Patricia Dickson.
And you give good commentary.
I'm also a contributor on American Thinker. That's a conservative site. I haven't written in a while, though, but I write for that, too, a commentary, AmericanThinker.com.
Yeah, and I love the articles at American Thinker. I haven't read one of yours yet, but I'm going to look it up when I get home. I'm so delighted to have you on the show. I'll have you on again. I think that it's nice to get a different perspective. Another Black American Trump supporter, a Black American woman. I hate identity politics, but yeah, I talk about Black America. Why? Because we're facing zero median wealth by 2053. So, Patricia, thank you for being a guest, and I'll have you on again. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll think about it later, and I'll do a promo on it, okay, what I'm going to do. We might have Michael Calder back to talk about MLK and the CIA. Or maybe not. I haven't decided yet. I'll think about it. Thank you for joining me on the Naked Truth Report. I'll see you next week.